Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Robert Hamm here, and today we're just going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about this LG V20. And there's a lot of comments that have been hitting my channel real quick, and I wanted to kind of share some of them with you and answer some of these questions a little bit more in depth. Interestingly enough, my video about a bunch of no's, a whole lot of no's with the LG V20 has gotten a lot of thumbs down. And that's an interesting thing for me, not because of the thumbs down, but because of how many people in percentage-wise have hit a thumbs down for what would seem to be just my own opinions about the phone. That means that we've got something that's pretty controversial, and I think I'm talking about something that most people haven't even considered. Now, being that I got the phone a little bit early means I was able to test it out before others, and I did ultimately turn it back. But let's go ahead and look at some of these comments real quick. Joe's Whatever, when commenting on a whole lot of no's, talking about that video, he says, but hey, remember that the Note 7 doesn't have good audio. Just be happy that you actually have it. He's talking about the LG V20, and you're lucky to have it. Some people don't even have it. Not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's talking about LG's not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just trying to be different, so they're offering the screen that they've got. If they put an OLED screen on it and other stuff, it would just be the same as every other phone. And he thinks it's a good phone, and that they at least still have an IR blaster there. And so, Joe, I got to tell you, you're right. However, there's one important thing. Remember, I turned the phone back. I decided not to keep it, not because of the screen. I decided not to keep it specifically because at release, when they put it out, the hi-fi audio, which was the reason that I decided to get the phone. Remember, I had a Note 7. I could have exchanged it immediately for the Galaxy S7 Edge, but LG did something cool. They got me over there. Someone that's been using Samsung phones for several years, they got me to switch. Samsung got me to switch from Apple with the iPhone 6 Plus when I switched from that to the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, and then the Edge Plus, and then the Note 5, and then the S7 Edge, and then the Note 7. So you get what I'm saying. There's been a lot of run on the Samsung for a while, and LG did something different enough to get me to head on over to LG. However, they didn't do it well. The fact that they would have included and touted this hi-fi audio is such a big deal, but not allowed it to be used with the front-facing camera, that's a deal breaker. That's something that should not have ever even happened. It should be allowed to be used no matter which camera's there. So it's a big no. And then when you take away the one feature that I really wanted, and all you have left is a halfway camera, well, that's my opinion, but if you compare the cameras as I did, if you look at them side by side, LG's camera's not hitting on much when compared to the Note 7 or the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge or the iPhone 7 Plus. The camera's just not on par. The whole thing's just not on par. So when you take away the one feature that I really needed, things like the camera, things like the screen, things like no water resistance become much more important. Had I known that going into it, had I realized in the store, looking at the demo, that I could not use the hi-fi audio with the front-facing camera, never would have bought it. But I really do appreciate your question. You go on to ask how long or what kind of screen on time have I been getting with the LG V20. Remember, I used it for 3 solid days, and I knocked it out of the park each time, and I was getting around 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. It seemed that when I was not touching the phone and it was just letting it sit there on standby, that it would just go on for hours, not even drop 1 or 2%. But using that screen seemed to really burn through the battery pretty quickly. So, 4.5 hours, 4.5 hours of screen on time. What was I doing? Just testing out the video, taking photos, surfing the web, setting up accounts, things like that, and so that's the kind of time that I was getting for the phone. However, it didn't bug me that much because I could just plug it in and charge it. But just to say, just as an example, I'm used to getting around 5 hours of screen on time with the Note 7 and about 5.5 hours of screen on time with the S7 Edge. So it was a little bit less. That means that maybe it takes more power to push the screen. Maybe it takes more power to stay connected. I don't know. But I was getting about 4 to 4.5 hours. Not bad, not great, but it didn't cause me any pain. Next comment comes from a gentleman named Big Chew H. Big Chew. Big Chuck. Oh, Big Chuck. Big Chuck. Hey, Big Chuck, thanks for your comment. He asks, or he makes a statement. He says, you're the first person to say something meaningful about the camera. Basically, if you want a professional photo, use a real camera and not your phone. When using manual mode, this is your question, when using manual mode on your V20, did you get better photos or photos that were just as good as the Note 7 or the iPhone 7 Plus? So this is a great question. I did have the great benefit of having my pal with me, and we were able to go out for the day and test out different settings and shoot. So he had the iPhone 7 Plus, I had my Note 7 at the time, and we had the LG V20. By far, let's say here, not audio, but video recording, we both agreed, at least I agreed more often than not, that the LG V20 had better image stabilization. Whatever it's doing, it doesn't seem to be as twitchy or as hunting. It doesn't kind of shuffle back and forth so much. All of the phones have OIS. LG is doing something cool with their digital stabilization as well. So that's great. Other than that, not at all. The camera just didn't stack up. However, for whatever reason, there's a lot of processing and images come off nice and soft. Color accuracy and representation is way off too. The auto white balance on the LG V20 seems to have a difficult time, whereas the Samsung and the iPhone 7 would nail white balance more often. In auto mode, the LG V20 would have a harder time. A great example is sitting at a bay window at a Jason's Deli where light's coming in, and then you've got sunlight, midday sunlight's coming in, and then you have the fluorescent lights that are coming down. Fluorescent lights have a lot of blue in them. The daylight has a lot of green in it, so there's a mixed lighting situation right there. Generally speaking, the LG V20 would give a blue cast, and I was trying to take pictures of my son, and it was kind of blue cast, which means that it's not correcting the correct color balance. It's trying to color balance for the halogen lamps rather than the daylight that's coming in, and that's making the image more blue. That didn't happen as often with the Note or the iPhone, but hey, you know, that's just a couple of tests right there. Your mileage may vary. Another thing that I noticed was I could get similar results in manual mode with the LG V20 when selecting my own white balance and focus and my own shutter speed and ISO, of course. I could get similar results in manual that I could get with my Samsung in auto. Think about that for a second. That should tell you something. So the Samsung was able to just pick it up, shoot, and get a nice image and a sharper image. I think the LG V20's images were sharp, but they had a lot of softness to them. What I mean is, it seems like there was some kind of processing to smooth, like adjusting the clarity tool or the noise reduction tool in Photoshop. That's kind of the idea. Samsung photos didn't look overly sharp to me. Of course, I'm used to that camera, and I wasn't really attempting to do a camera review. It's just that Big Chuck's asking me about it, so I'm trying to answer that right there. Let me make sure I answered it all. The other thing I want to remind you is Samsung should have the best camera on the market, and they should have come by it honestly. And you don't realize this because if you're not shooting cameras, you don't understand the kind of splash that Samsung has made in the mirrorless camera market in the past 5 years. With the NX series and APS-C size sensors pushing 24 and 28 megapixels, they've come up and been making and designing their very own sensors in-house for a long time. Upwards to 10 years from what I've been able to research. They've been making and designing their own camera sensors. Of course, they contract out for Sony to actually build that. So they're working with Sony, another great sensor manufacturer, to help gain industry knowledge, research, and development on how to make a sensor for a cell phone. But they didn't get there by cell phones. They started with cell phones, and many years ago when they were important, they were putting just Sony sensors in there, the IMX series sensors. But then Samsung decided to make their own cameras with the NX series of cameras. Now, not that I've ever owned an NX camera, just because it's such a new product for Samsung, but it's obvious that they are putting their information and knowledge that they have gained from the NX line, such as sensor design, as well as lens and optics design, into their cell phones. Why else would they have an excellently and continuously top-rated sensor? Now, I think right now DxO Mark has knocked the Google Pixel up to like 98 points or something like that. And you're going to see those kinds of bumps and changes in technology. But when it gets right down to it, Samsung's cell phone camera, the camera on the S7 Edge and the S7 and the Note 7, those are excellent cameras, and they are continuously lauded for being excellent cameras. Now, I don't take a lot of pictures I don't take pro photos with my cell phone. However, the Samsung images are great. If you want to take a pro picture, then just go get it. You get a little point and shoot, something with even a half-inch sensor, or bigger than get something that's got, a 1-inch sensor or something like that, or a micro 4/3. But not with your cell phone. So we're really comparing things that aren't as important to me. The video capabilities are more important specifically for the front-facing camera. I'd like to see a camera that has a phone that has an excellent front-facing camera, even better than what we've got today. So there's that. Let's go and see. I got a couple more here. I'm going to keep this short. I just wanted to answer these for you. Another one. Dwayne Nixon, hey, thanks. I like the nose video. He's talking about day one impressions. I just ordered the LG V20 to replace my Note 7. Hopefully the phone is popular enough that they'll fix the software restrictions. Until they go old school and change out the screen, the light issues such as light leaks and things like that will still exist. So thanks for the information on my Note set about the LG V20. Dwayne, not a problem, man. I'm happy to make a video that you liked. The reality is those two screens up at the top, that second screen, which is a cool idea, although the placement seems a little odd, but something you can get used to because of the always on nature of it, because it's another LCD screen. There is light leak. You don't ever notice that unless the lights are off, and then you can see it coming into the screen. That's what he's talking about there. I do hope that for you guys that order the LG V20, they go ahead and update the software to allow you to use the hi-fi audio. That would be an excellent thing for you. But good job there. And Vamish Krishana, hey man, how you doing? It sounds like maybe India. He says, hey, I just saw the video. I only watched 3 minutes of it. He's talking about the LG V20 day one impressions. And he's saying, what I understood is that satisfying people is hard. It's hard to satisfy everybody is what he's saying. And apparently he didn't really get it. And he says, and you're testing the camera, or you're testing the phone with all of these glasses and stuff. And he says Oakley's and all that other stuff. The reality is quite simple. If you wear, and I understand his point, not many people wear polarizing glasses, so you'll never encounter this problem. But if you wear polarizing glasses and you look at an IPS display, even my Surface Book, man, my Surface Pro 4, I look at this right here, and what I see is polarization, and that's because polarizing is actually it's a way of collimating the light in order to get rid of glare. That's what it does, and so it allows different areas of light to go through the polarizing lens differently. Look it up on Wikipedia. There's plenty of information about it. But if you do wear polarized sunglasses like these or regular glasses, and you look at a screen, specifically an IPS screen like what's in here, this is a Super CCD3 IPS panel, you're gonna see these little rainbows, and you're gonna see where it kind of polarizes. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. That's there. That's a serious issue. I wear polarizing glasses. I pick up the screen and I see it a little bit. I see it faintly, but it's there. Now, the way that you change that is by changing the pixel pitch of the screen, and there's some things that you can do with software in order to make that effect less noticeable. Once again, you can research about that and polarization, and the screen types on Wikipedia are out there. Apple has done an excellent job. Apple's got an IPS, Super CCD3 LCD IPS display, or more, or better now, and I don't see any polarization marks or rainbows with that. And what does that mean? That means that they've changed the pixel pitch, and they've done enough with it through software that people that even wear polarized glasses don't have that kind of an issue. So that's definitely a big thing. So if you do wear polarizing glasses and you didn't know, well, now you know. So those are just a couple questions, guys. I wanted to get this video out. Thanks for leaving comments on it, and I hope that this helps you some. I didn't dislike the phone. Don't go, if you got the LG V20, don't go thinking that it's a bad phone. It's not a bad phone by any means. For me, it just didn't fill the needs that I have. I like the phone quite a bit, and I hope that you enjoy it. I want you to enjoy it. And as always, keep it easy, my friends.